What's up, you guys? Thank you very much for joining me here on YouTube. This is my very first episode of my new series that I'm calling Making the Custom. This first series is going to be profiling all of the work going into my latest custom, Big Daddy V. Here in part number 1, what you guys are going to see is I'm going to be laying some foundation for the modifications that I'm going to be making to the body here. What you guys are witnessing now is I'm just mixing some of my milliput. It's my preferred clay of choice. This guy comes in a couple different colors. As far as I know, it doesn't really make a difference what color you go with if you guys aren't sculpting in finer details. What I'm going to be doing here is just basically changing the body size for a V, and I'm going to be sanding it smooth, so I'm not really looking out for any fine details here. Now, this comes in 2 parts. Basically what you want to do is grab equal parts A and B, and you want to soften, mix, and knead them together until you have a uniform color. Once you guys have the color down, then you can start adding, you can start sculpting, and in about 3 hours, this clay is going to get hard enough to where you can sand it, you can drill it, you can shave it. It's really durable stuff. Here you guys can see I went with the Elite Yokozuna body. I'm going to be using a Viscera head and some Legends cane boots. The reason for using the Yokozuna body is it was pretty common and not super expensive to have to find, and the body shape is pretty big, and I do believe the scale matches perfectly once adding the cane boots as far as the height for V. What I'm doing here is I'm just basically trying to change the aesthetic of the torso here to match that a little bit more closely for V. Basically, I'm going to be adding some width. I'm going to be having some of the belly hanging over the waistline of the trunks. I'm going to be adding some width to the sides, and I'm going to be adding some bulk to the chest. Now, this one is going to be a little bit more on the rough side, you guys, because I'm going to be adding over it. What I want to do here in part number 1 is basically lay a foundation and make sure that I'm maintaining all of his original articulation. Now, basically what you guys are seeing in the background here at my workstation is my iPad is open here in the top right corner, and when I'm customizing here at my desk, I always like to have some reference pictures of the project that I'm currently working on sitting there. That way I can refer back to those to achieve the desired visual, whether sculpting or painting. As far as my tools that you guys are seeing me work with here, I want to really get across that there's no necessarily right or wrong tools that you're working with when creating art, just what works and what doesn't work. So what you guys are seeing me use here are some wet Q-tips or cotton swabs. I'm also using a toothpick, and finally I have an X-Acto blade just to carve over that waistband to make sure he still retains that full articulation that we were going for. The reasoning for using the Q-tips is that I always like to have some Q-tips on hand while I'm sculpting, and if you guys notice, I'm often dipping them into the water there to my left side. That's really going to help achieve a smooth finish. The Q-tip doesn't leave any sort of residue or any kind of cotton coming off of it, and so it's a really excellent tool to make sure that what you guys are sculpting is coming out nice and smooth. As you guys can see here, I've added quite a bit of bulk to the chest of V. I want to make sure that his pecs are hanging down well over his belly. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I want to make sure you guys know I'm just laying a foundation for this part. I'm going to be adding a considerable amount of clay to the top of this, as well as sculpting his singlet straps. So what I'm doing now is just basically adding a skeleton to that. You guys will notice that I'm continuously going underneath the pecs of V to make sure that he still retains that full articulation, and I'm doing my best to achieve a nice smooth finish before we let this cure and move on. Here we've got a pretty decent skeleton. I've added a lot of bulk to the belly. I'm going over the waistband here, continuing to maintain that full articulation for V. I've added a lot of space to the chest. That way I can have a nice smooth finish when I go over this one in part number 2. Now, I'm going to try to keep these videos around 10 minutes in length. If you guys are wondering, this time-lapse video represents about an hour of sculpting time. Now remember, I'm going to be giving you guys an entire walkthrough of everything that I'm doing to go into this custom. So in the next video, you're going to be seeing more sculpting for the upper body of V, as well as modifying the head. Thank you guys one more time for checking out episode 1 here of Making the Custom, my very first series here on YouTube. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, please comment, please share, please subscribe here on YouTube, as well as check out my Instagram page where you're going to see a lot more of my finished products at chargrove.customs.